Vitamin C is really important for preventing things like scurvy. So the old illness that sailors used to get from not being able to eat any fresh fruit, where your gums start bleeding, old scars start opening up, you can't heal wounds properly. That's not a very pleasant way to live. So I have a zombie film. Yeah, it really eat all meat and get scurvy. Yeah, that does sound like a zombie film.
Is a carnivore diet harmful in the long run? Hi, I'm Dr. Eric Westman, and welcome to my channel where I review and debunk nutritional misinformation online. In this video, we're going to hear from a nutritionist who is calling an alarm about the carnivore diet and doesn't think you should do it. Let's hear her reasons for it, and be sure to listen to the end so you get my final thoughts. Before we dive into today's video, I want to personally invite you to join my free diabetes lab workshop. In this essential workshop, I'll walk you through how to understand your lab results so you can take control of your health and reverse type 2 diabetes and prediabetes for good. See the link in the description to sign up.
There are potential consequences in terms of eating too much meat. And if you're only eating meat, it's very likely you will be eating too much meat. So too much meat presents risks of things like too much saturated fat. Saturated fat increases our risk of the bad cholesterol going high in our blood, which increases our risk of heart disease and cardiovascular disease. And they're going to be very low in all of the other good things that come in our other foods. Our vitamin C, our fiber, our vitamin K, they're primarily from plant sources.
Oh boy, this is like the litany of the old paradigm view that the saturated fat in the food raises the cholesterol, and the cholesterol causes the heart disease, and actually that's really not connected in that way, but that's the way it has been taught for so long. And then the worry about scurvy and fiber and all this, we're really still in sort of, these are theoretical concerns. I really am holding out for someone to show in real time, and people doing it in modern day ways, that these things exist. And I haven't seen it yet, but so theoretical concerns are theoretical concerns.
What are the possible negative consequences of lacking those things in your diet?
Vitamin C is really important for preventing things like scurvy. So the old illness that sailors used to get from not being able to eat any fresh fruit, where your gums start bleeding, old scars start opening up, you can't heal wounds properly. That's not a very pleasant way to live.
Sounds like a zombie
really
film.
Yeah, it really eat all meat and get scurvy. Yeah, that does sound like a zombie film.
Well, again, this is a theoretical concern, and haven't seen it. It's reminding me of 25 years ago when people said that Atkins diet is so high in fat, you're going to get a heart attack. Well, it didn't happen. And so I'm open-eyed waiting for the first episode of scurvy of someone. Scurvy is not a pleasant thing, like they're saying. You would end up in the emergency room, and I'm sure the news people would be there to talk about it if it really were connected. So again, the metabolism is different when you don't eat carbohydrates, and the theory, the counter theory is you need much less vitamin C when you don't eat glucose, when you don't eat carbohydrates. And in fact, the elements that vitamin C helps you make are a part of a carnivore diet, so that the idea you're eating what the vitamin C was going to help you to make in the first place is a kind of a new idea into the whole, well, you're going to get scurvy. Well, maybe not. And there are a lot of things in the blood, even blood levels of things that are different when you don't eat carbohydrates. It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad or harmful. So again, we're in that world of theory here, theoretical concern, not actual concern.
Okay.
And fiber is really important for our gut health. So our gut bacteria actually make some of the nutrients that we use in our body, as well as providing a lot of important signaling molecules that do things like tell us that we're full, or do things like help us regulate our blood sugar and our appetite, desire for eating. Vitamin K is a little bit trickier in terms of what it does. It definitely is an essential nutrient, but it has a bit more, less obvious, I guess, consequences in terms of a deficiency. But what I would say is that when you're thinking about deficiencies and the things you're missing, not all these things manifest immediately. The body's really good at what we call homeostasis, and homeostasis is keeping things in the normal situation.
Well, so fiber, other nutrients, fiber really is one of these things that gets a lot of play in, buy my product with fiber, or buy my fiber. It really has been underwhelming in terms of medical importance when fiber is given to reduce polyps in the colon or colon cancer. It really doesn't show an effect. So does it make you more regular and have more bowel movements? Perhaps. And that might be why people focus on it and why it may be important for a lot of people. But as far as a medical concern, having a lower amount of fiber in a carnivore type of diet, again, is a theoretical concern. It's not really an actual concern to me.
There's also a strain of argument from proponents of the carnivore diet, basically that nutrition science has kind of got it all wrong. There's like a big misunderstanding, and there's like an orthodoxy that doesn't take account of new information that's emerging, and that they're kind of at the forefront of that. Now, obviously, that's a pretty big thing to debunk, but what do you say to that?
Well, I think every conspiracy theory starts with the idea that the experts have got it wrong and haven't done the research or have some vested interests. But really, I think that comes from a misunderstanding of what nutrition science is. So people think that there needs to be a randomized control trial, an intervention where we compare people on one diet to people on another diet to know what is a healthy diet to recommend for people. But that's actually a very impractical, high-cost, unethical, and almost impossible way of doing things, because we can't randomize people into those diets for a very long-term study.
Well, I'm a clinical trialist and I disagree. I think we must start collecting data going forward and randomizing people. And the ethics are a very interesting thing. Your ethics may be different than mine, and IRBs, which are ethics committees, some may or may not go along with studying these things, but if there is a problem like type 2 diabetes, and a diet like a carnivore diet is reversing type 2 diabetes, a serious medical issue, it would not be unethical to study a carnivore diet to treat type 2 diabetes. It's not unethical to try testing a drug to treat a disease. And it's just very fascinating how the nutritional epidemiologists would have that argument that, well, we can't do big studies, and yes, we can now. Perhaps it's the advent of the internet and other ways to collect data that you can actually get blood drawn everywhere. And so I think it's going to be incumbent upon the new science to figure out ways to do randomized trials of these different dietary approaches. And there should be kind of you can't, almost like drugs, you can't claim that a diet has a certain effect unless you do have this sort of prospective data, just like a drug company would have to have.
So we don't make decisions in nutrition off the back of single studies or segregating people into different groups. We make decisions based on the body of evidence, a large amount of evidence, a great number of studies. So we don't typically study people on the carnivore diet because that would be unethical, because we know from the body of evidence that we have already that putting people on a carnivore diet could do them harm. So it would be unethical for us to do that study.
Yeah, so I disagree. And I'm reminded of the unethical to study the Atkins diet 25 years ago when we started studying the Atkins diet. And even, yes, the nutrition expert lobbied the hospital director to cut down and stop the study. That didn't happen. Studies now have been done all over the world looking at something that was thought to be unethical for a while. So even the way you view this can change over time, and I would say that you wouldn't do the study, which is fine. You find someone whose ethics allows them to acknowledge that while this approach might not be perfect, it is something worthy of study to reverse a serious medical condition like type 2 diabetes. So I have to imagine that this person is not a clinical trialist. It doesn't realize that you can do clinical trials on a relatively low budget, and the nutritional epidemiology view of asking people what they eat and then following what happens to them over time is fraught with methodologic problems, and so that should not be the evidence we use to tell people what to eat and recommend for health. In fact, I'm not sure we should have many recommendations from the government telling people what to eat unless there are prospective clinical trials supporting the evidence. You know, that food pyramid that came out such a long time ago had no research behind it to say that it was healthy, and it was just rolled out, and it created a large problem we're still dealing with today. Well, I hope that's helpful. If you like, please like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and look out for new content twice a week. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and check out adaptyourlifeacademy.com.